Hey people, it's Niles talking. Now, I remember this story a while back, but I never covered this because obviously it happened before I did my channel. But anyway, this is from Rolling Stone. The NYPD's work stoppage is surreal. In an alternate universe, the New York police might have just solved the national community policing controversy. Brace yourself for a weird night. Might have been a little extra drama with the ball drops in Times Square thanks to one of the more confusing political protests in recent memory. On a night when more than a million potentially law-breaking but probably tipsy revelers will be crowding the most densely populated city blocks in America, all eyes will be on the city cops stuck with holiday duty. Why? Because the New York City police are in the middle of a slowdown. The New York police is going so far as to call it a virtual work stoppage. Furious at the embattled Mayor Bill de Blasio and at what Police Benevolent Association Patrick Lynch called a hostile anti-police environment in the city, the local officers are simply refusing to arrest or ticket people for minor offences. Such arrests have dropped off a staggering 94%, with overall arrests plunging 66%. And I really want people to notice this, because when people often apologize for the police, say they're just doing their job, so wait a minute, are you telling me that they can just pick and choose what crimes to investigate and which ones to arrest people for? They can just do that? I thought they were supposed to be like RoboCop, where they just see something and they have to respond. I mean, that's the way they portrayed it. But anyway, let's keep going. If you're wondering exactly what that means, the Post is reporting that the protesting police have decided to make arrests only when they have to. Let that sink in for a moment. Seriously, 10 or 15 seconds, take that. Substantively, that means a steep drop-off in parking tickets, but also a major drop in ticket for quality of life offences like carrying open containers of alcohol or public urination. My first response to this news was confusion. I get why the police are protesting. They pissed at Mayor de Blasio, and more on that in a minute, but this sort of protest pulls this story out to the standard left-right cultural script it had been following and into surreal territory. I don't know any officer anyway who would refuse to arrest a truly dangerous criminal as part of a PBA-led political stunt. So the essence of this protest seems now to be about trying to hit de Blasio where it hurts, i.e. in the budget, without actually endangering the public. So this police protest, and just going back to that, so a lot of these arrests are not about protecting the public. It's just about making money for the city or whichever municipality that employs those police. So this police protest unwittingly is leading to the exposure of the very policies that anger so many different constituencies about modern law enforcement tactics. First, it shines a light on the use of police officers to make up for tax shortfalls using ticket and citation revenue. Then there's a related and significantly more important issue of forcing police to make thousands of arrests and issue hundreds of thousands of summonses when they don't have to. It's incredibly ironic that the police have chosen to abandon quality of life actions like public urination tickets and open container violations, because it's precisely these types of interactions at the heart of the broken windows policies that so infuriate residents of so-called hotspot neighborhoods. This broken windows policy is basically related to the stop and frisk policy that basically just harassing people for normal behaviors in order to stop crimes before they happen. In an alternate universe where this pseudo-strike, and don't forget, that was also ruled unconstitutional. In an alternate universe where the pseudo-strike wasn't the latest sortie in a standard issue right versus left political showdown, one could imagine this protest as a progressive or even a libertarian strike in which police refuse to work as backdoor tax collectors and or implement minority report style preemptive policing policies, which is a lot of what these broken windows type arrests amount to. That's not what's going on here. As far as I can tell, there's nothing enlightened about this slowdown, although I'm sure there's thousands of cops who are more than happy to get a break from broken windows policing. I've met more than a few police in the last few years who complain vigorously about things like the empty the pad policies in some precincts where officers are told by superiors to fill predetermined summons quotas every month. And that's a very serious thing. You see, people who talk about black on black crime, as in the statistics say this, but we've got testimony from cops saying that they have quotas that they have to fill no matter what. Otherwise, their jobs or at the very least their pay are at risk. It would be amazing if this NYPD protest somehow brought parties on all sides to a place where we could all agree that policing should just go back to a policy of officers arresting people when they have to. Because it's wrong to put law enforcement in the position of having to make up for budget shortfalls with parking tickets. It's even more wrong to ask its officers to soak already cash-strapped residents of hotspot neighborhoods with mountains of summonses as part of some stats-based crime reduction strategy. Both policies make people pissed off at police for the most basic and understandable reasons. If you're running into one, there's a pretty good chance you're going to end up opening your wallet. Your average summons for QOL offense costs more than an ordinary working person makes in a day driving a bus, waiting tables, or sweeping floors. So every time you nail somebody, you're literally ruining their whole day. If I were a police officer, I'd hate to be taking money from people all day long too. Christ, that's worse than being a dentist. So in normal circumstances, this slowdown wouldn't just make sense to be heroic. Actually, yeah, it is worse than being a dentist. At least the dentist is doing you a service at the end of the day, not just causing you pain for the fun of it. Unfortunately, this protest is not about police refusing to shake people down for money or principle. For one thing, it's simply another public union using its essential services leverage to hold the executive and by extension the taxpayer hostage in a negotiation. In this case, the public union doesn't want higher pay or better benefits, in which case it wouldn't have the support from the political right it has now, just the opposite. It merely wants support, in quotes, from the mayor, basically stop sympathizing with the people the police kill. And this was, I think, around the time they killed Eric Garner. I think I'd have to check that. On another level, however, this is just the latest salvo in an ongoing, increasingly vicious cultural war mess that is showing no signs of abating. Most everyone across the country knows the background by now. The police in New York are justifiably furious about the Saturday, December 20th ambush murder assassination of two of their officers, Rafael Ramos and Wenjian Liu, at the hand of a rampage killer from Baltimore named Ismail Brinsley, who shot his girlfriend and promised on Instagram to put wings on pigs for coming to New York and doing the evil deed, had cited the killing of Eric Garner's ran saying, among other things, they took one of ours, let's take two of theirs. Oh, okay, so this did happen after Eric Garner. According to the translated theory of culpability, so popular in our left-right media echo chamber, Brainsley's monstrous act put de Blasio in the political jackpot, since both had expressed dismay about the death of Garner, an African-American man from Staten Island who died this past summer in a struggle with police over a 75-cent cigarette. De Blasio, of course, never urged anyone to put wings on pigs, and his comment about the actual grand jury decision, that it was something many in our city did not want, was really just a simple statement of fact. But de Blasio also clumsily personalized the incident, talking about his own half-black son Dante, saying that he and his wife Chirlane had to talk to Dante about the dangers he may face, and he added, it should be self-evident, but our history requires us to say that Black Lives Matter. Well, why shouldn't he talk about this? They've talked about how they, arrest quotas. They've shown many, many times that they are willing to beat on black people for no reason. If you remember the quarantine, they showed the white people who didn't have masks, they give them out, but the ones that didn't, they started beating them and arresting them. So they act like a dog with catching blood. They just go crazy. As maximally uncontroversial as it sounds, the local tabloids went nuts over de Blasio's remarks, bashing the boss of the nation's biggest police force for quoting a globally surging protest hashtag and talking about how he has to teach his own son to be wary of police. And then Ramos and Liu were murdered in a horrible tragedy that would have lasting implications for people on all sides of the political spectrum. The thing is, there are really two things going on here. One is an ongoing bitter argument about race and blame that won't be resolved in this country anytime soon. Dig a millimeter under the surface of the Garner case, Ferguson, the Liu Ramos murders, and you'll find a vicious race-soaked debates about who's to blame for urban poverty, black crime, police violence, immigration, overloaded prisons, and a dozen other nightmare issues. Actually, those things are not hard to figure out. If you think about all the anti-black policies that were done to keep black people poor and in their place, nothing was ever done. They just said, we're just not going to do it anymore, but we're not going to fix the effects. Just, fix yourself. But the other thing is highly specific debate over a very resolvable controversy, not about police as people, but how police are deployed. Most people in police, most of all, agree that the best use of police officers is police work. They shouldn't be collecting backdoor taxes because politicians do cowardly to raise them. And they shouldn't be preemptively busting people in poor neighborhoods because people don't have the patience to figure out some other way to... Because voters don't have the patience to figure out some other way to deal with our dying cities. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. And this is also very interesting because this is a few years old, but it's still very relevant as to why the police do a lot what they do. And frankly, a lot of these small crimes are used to escalate to bigger incidents. Like they'll say, well, we need to arrest or citation, create an incident, escalate that into a deadly situation. So please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. I'll leave this and some other articles related to this in the description. Peace.